And welcome everybody to Sports on Tap. This is a special episode that we have here. My name is Ed Dick, alongside Sean Duffy, Rob Troutman, Noah
Hello.
Jacobson. Josh Sheffy is on assignment today. You're watching us live on our YouTube channel at Sports on Tap. Make sure you check us out on our website, www.sportsontappodcast.com. That's where you're going to catch all of our episodes, all of our statistics, schedules, anything you want to know about the show will be on sportsontappodcast.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast, and of course on Facebook at Sports on Tap. And tell you, we're coming off of the heels of another successful Barron Cup championship, the 52nd Barron Cup championships, where we crowned three champions, two new champions and one champion that was able to repeat. And we are talking to that team right now. It is our pleasure to talk about the Western Reserve Academy Pioneers. We are joined right now by head coach Brand Closen, and along with his son and former player Kyle Closen. We're kind of doing a very special episode for Western Reserve to talk about the program, talk about some of the favorite things that have gone on, maybe some hear some stories, and really just celebrate the program. As we talked about in the broadcast, this was the last season for the Western Reserve Academy program, and we wanted to kind of put a nice bow on it by having Coach and Kyle and some of the other players and coaches on through the years. Just a little bit about Coach. He has over 300 wins as a head coach, 5 Barron Cup 2 championships, 2002, 2014, 2015, 2022, and 2023. I cannot adequately describe the impact that Coach Closen has had on not only his own program, but hundreds of kids, and also the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League as well. We will be joined by the president of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, Ryan Kelber, as well, to talk about Western Reserve and their impact on the league. And it's just going to be a very, very special episode. So without further ado, let's get to it. Coach Closen, thank you again for joining us. You mentioned it right before we came on, right before we went live. You got that nice Barron Cup 2 trophy hanging out right over your left shoulder, I believe.
Sitting right back there.
Yes, I think Coach Kelber, I kind of want him to come on so we can talk about this, but I think Kelber could spring for another trophy there for Barron Cup 2, and kind of just let you keep that one, right?
Yeah, he's not getting that one back.
Yeah, well, we usually present it to the school. The boys haven't done that yet, and it goes into his display case at the school, and then we take it back and goes to next year's champion, which obviously won't be us. So the boys aren't sure where they want to sit for this final year, whether it sits at a showcase here at school or sits up at the lake at my shelf. But we'll get it displayed properly.
Hey, Coach. Again, there's no, as you mentioned, there's no better way to go to finish. 2 straight Barron Cup 2 championships. As we talked about in the past, you guys don't participate in the OHSAA tournament. So the Barron Cup is the championship for you guys.
Right.
And,
this is our championship. This is our year-end tournament. Western Reserve has not ever been in the OSHAA. The school started in 1826. OSHAA started in 1906, I believe. Tried to get the school to join then. The school wasn't interested. It reformulated in the 50s. The school wasn't interested. A few years ago, I'm also involved. I was president of the Midwest Scholastic Lacrosse Association, and the lacrosse teams from Michigan tried to get us to join because they couldn't play us if we weren't in the state association. And again, the school was not interested in joining. There's just too many things that are roadblocks for us with international kids, with kids from out of state. We do have some kids who are over semestered. We don't have any kids who participate in anything that are overaged. But even simple things like the academic requirement, a lot of our kids will take 3, 4 AP courses, then a couple of half courses in cancer immunology or something else. State rules, you have to take 5. And so we'd have to change everything to be part of it. So this is our big thing. And so all year we're focused on that. And it makes it special for us, and it certainly makes it special to bring it home. 29 years, we did it 5 times. So I wouldn't say that we were running the gauntlet all the time. And usually, I shouldn't say usually, after 2014, 15, we moved up to the red division and played up there for 3 years, I think, and held our own that first year. But like hockey at any school, ups and downs. And we did fine that first year in red, and then we were outmatched the next couple of years. I think we went without a win in the red division for a season or maybe 2, and then they moved us back down to where it's more appropriate for us. We don't have a feeder program. It's just based on whatever kids we get, and that makes us a little bit unique, but also makes it, you sometimes have a lot, and sometimes the cupboard's pretty empty. So you kind of make do with what you got.
Hey, Coach, you guys did just that this year. I mean, we talked to you before the season started, and
yes,
with the impending the impending ending of the program, you had a little bit of shuffling there to deal with, and you guys obviously weathered that storm and came out like gangbusters in the tournament as the team kind of grew together and players got more comfortable in the roles that they started out with. And talk about the progression of the season for you guys, from the start to the championship final.
Sure. Yeah. And when we spoke at the beginning of the season, I remember saying that I felt that our biggest hole was going to be in goal, because last year, in the 22 season, we had taken a kid who was a forward and made him into a goalie. We'd played Strongsville our very first scrimmage and lost 14-11 or something like that. And then we played Strongsville in the Barron Cup Championship and won 5-1. I said, hey, it was great. This kid really developed, really came along. Well, he was a senior, and Brendan came to me before the season started and said, Coach, I'm not going to play my senior year in goal. So we were back at square one, and we found a kid from Seoul, Korea, who had skated before but never played hockey before, and we turned him into our goalie, and he did a great job. He was actually 9-1 on the season, but we lost to Stowe 8-1 with him in goal, and I think Brendan felt, well, if we're gonna win the big one, if we're gonna kind of make a run here, I might have to make a switch, and Brendan did. He came back into goal. And we play different, and so it's not really anything against Silas, but he's a new goalie. And everything he was trying to learn, and so really for us, I think that was a real turning point for us. Silas went home at Christmas time. We played in the Kent Roosevelt Christmas tournament. And we beat Hudson with Brendan in goal, and I think he realized, oh, we can play with the big boys when he's in net. And so I didn't make the switch. It was forced upon us because Silas went home. He had a plane reservation to go back home that his mom had made long before the season ever started. He had already changed his Thanksgiving schedule so he could play in our very first game against Solon, and so I wasn't going to ask him to do it twice. Pretty expensive change of flight from Cleveland to Seoul.
Yeah.
So we ended up put Brendan in just by the sheer fact that we had to have someone, and he did an amazing job. Everything that he had learned last year came back to him pretty quickly, and I think that's when we really turned the corner. When we came back from Christmas, we didn't quite run the table, but we were pretty close. Now, both of the guys played in goal. Silas and Brendan played in goal. but we only lost 2 games from January 1st on to the Barron Cup final, and both of them were against a team from Pennsylvania, our prep school buddy Kiski. So we won all of our Ohio games, which was I felt a real testament to what the kids were doing. It wasn't really anything I'd done. It was just them coming together as a team.
And we're also we're joined right now by the president of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, Ryan Kelber. Presidente, thank you for joining us. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, it's great to be on, especially with Coach Closen here. And I see that beautiful trophy in your background there.
There it is.
There she is. Yep, she's beautiful. But no, you know what? We're so thankful to have Sports on Tap and their interest in our league here, and you've been an ambassador for our league and for the sport of hockey here in Northeast Ohio. So, it's an honor to be here with you. It's an honor to work with you here in years. And tonight's all about you, and we want to pay honor, like I said, to you and everything that you've brought to this great game here.
Well, thank you very much, and I would be remiss if I didn't say something about Ryan. He came on the heels. Brian Teeple had done the president's job for a number of years, but not as an AD, just as a former coach, and kind of filled that role. And he did all the dirty work that needs to be done by the league president. And then Ryan, were you at Brooklyn or Garfield Heights? You were.
Yeah, you know what? I just volunteered.
Oh,
thinking I would just be a helper here for the first little bit.
Yeah, a helper for 15 years is how that's how that works out.
I had known Brian just because I grew up, around the Brooklyn area, Brooklyn Rec Center, and Brian running everything. And I was coaching over at Garfield. I started coaching at Garfield, and I was at Brooklyn as the AD and coach. And Brian got me on board, and the next thing you know, Brian's retiring, and then he gave it to Joe Simon. Joe Simon retired after a year or two, and here you go, Ryan. So it's a whole nother story.
I was going to say, you're not even associated with a school that has a team in the league, yet
unfortunately
you still do it. And it's yeoman's work. And I know the league and I know all the other coaches are appreciative of all your efforts. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I do it because I love the good people like you around here. So, hockey's number one in my heart. So
thank you.
Ryan, with Western Reserve, I mean, we talked about it. They've won 5 Barron Cup 2 championships since 2002. I think they've certainly left an indelible mark on the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League. Really throughout their history with you guys.
Yeah, and I heard Brian talking, and they've not only have they been successful, but they've also helped work with us in the league, and they did go up to the Red for a little bit, and they were competitive for a time being, but we know the Red's more about depth and numbers, and Western Reserve's been good with such few numbers because of the talent and because of the coaching, definitely. But up in the Red, it comes down to depth. But Western Reserve's always been a team player and always willing to put the league first, so they've jumped around from the Red to the White, and they've been successful, it seems like, anywhere they go.
And it's not that obviously we want every team, we want to have success throughout the league, but it is you almost think as the defending Barron Cup 2 champions and going against an up and coming team like Stowe that just started themselves very recently, there's definitely some definitely a good story at the end there with the Grizzled program of Western Reserve finishing off against the up and coming Stowe Bulldogs, and such a great game that was for the Barron Cup 2 championship.
Oh yeah, that was one of the better games there, and like you had mentioned, Stowe being their first year in the league, and then they kind of, I think, took a lot of people by surprise until they met the crafty veterans of Western Reserve in the championship. He said, "Slow down here. You'll have your time here soon, but it's still ours here in our last year here." So,
yeah, I'm sure there are some in our division who are glad to see us move on to I don't know if greener pastures, but other pastures.
Yeah.
but yeah, for us, we had, as I mentioned before, we had a league game. The way that the white was set up this year, you played home and away with your division opponents, and then you crossed over. And because Stowe came in and the way it worked out, they were in the other division. So we only played them one time. And it was fairly early. It was early December. And we played them at home. And it was not a thing of beauty. We lost 8-1, but there were just a boatload of penalties. I think 5 of their 8 goals were power plays. In fact, we didn't score. We got to running time. That's how bad it was. And we didn't score our goal until 20 seconds left in the game. That was our first goal. So I think we took some people by surprise. If anyone had been at that game, they were going, this isn't going to be a contest. But as I say, I think the team kind of came together. The attitude of the team, our forecheck, our back check, our back checking improved the entire season. So we're able to eliminate odd man rushes. And that was key to us. Even though we had Brendan back in goal, odd man rushes are difficult for a goalie that's still new to it. And it only being his second year, it was still new to him. And so it's tough to stop those 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s where you have to get a lot of movement within the net. And I see Audie Glass just got on, who played goal at reserve, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's a difficult. That's something that's learned over time as a goalie. It's something that's coached, and we just didn't have a lot of time to coach these guys up. Dan Berman is our goalie coach, and he does a great job. But it's limited time, and that was probably the other thing we had. And it's not against the Stowe kids or the Stowe coaches, but they took our spot at Kent State for the practice ice. We ended up moving out to the pond. When COVID hit, everything shut down at Kent State. There were 6 teams there, CBCA and Walsh and us and Hudson. And when they came back online, they shut down the little rec rink, and they decided to only go to 3 teams. And we got cut out of that one, and that one hurt a little bit. So I reminded the boys of that before we went to that game. They took our barn.
A little gamesmanship there. I like it. As you mentioned, we're also joined by Audie Glass, a player from the 2001 and 2004, part of the first Barron Cup 2 championship team. Joining us. And Audie, thank you. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on and talk a little bit about Western Reserve. When you get a chance, when you're on, talk a little bit about your experiences when you were in school as a player, then when you came back around as a coach, and really just talk about what the program's meant to you.
Yeah, it's and actually you got a little bit of poor intel. Kyle would have been part of those teams, but I actually transferred in for 02, 03, and then 03, 04. So would have been in high school during that time period, but I actually transferred in my junior year to Western Reserve, and then unfortunately my senior year was when Coach and his family went on sabbatical to the Czech. So only really got 1 year playing for Coach, both in lacrosse and hockey. But then, lo and behold, a decade later, was able to come back as a faculty member and, have some fun coaching hockey with Coach Closen, or both of them, I should say, since Kyle was doing it as well. And yeah, just it's certainly held a pretty special place in my heart, despite only being there 2 years as a student and an athlete there. Just had an incredible time, and was able to develop as a human being quite a bit, and largely with a lot of the lessons that that I learned, you know, in and outside of the classroom. I probably focus more on the lessons outside the classroom at times, but those are the more fun ones too, eh? But no, it was a lot of fun, and yeah, it's been a pleasure to kind of keep an eye on the program, be a part of it in various capacities, and then just see their continued success. And you know, we'll be missing that next winter, that's for sure.
So will I. So will I.
Hey, Kyle, we're also joined by Kyle Closen, son and former player as well. Kyle, why don't you jump in a little bit here, and you know, when you're hearing not only, you know, Ryan and Coach and Audie talk a little bit, you kind of thread that all together for us a little bit here, you know, from your involvement into where things are right now for you.
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, I kind of grew up with it, so you know, it kind of runs the gamut for me, going from when I was little to when I started first skating on the hockey pond, where we kind of had some practices, and then moving to Kent. I would ride with the team, usually in the back on the bags. I don't know if my mom ever knew that or was approve of that.
Hey, we try to keep that on the QT.
So the teams probably shouldn't known about it, but one of them was driving, so got away with that one.
So kind of growing up with the team and kind of being part of, you know, what I did every winter, obviously was pretty special. And then being able to play for my dad was awesome. And, you know, that's when we really turned a corner my freshman year. We won our first tournament. And then my sophomore year, they didn't have a Barron Cup tournament, but we won the division. So I still think we would have won the Barron Cup. So I count as the 6 with an asterisk. But, you know, so that was great. And then I was able to go on and coach with Brad Edwards, who coached me my junior year. And I went and coached with him in Menor. So we were able to coach for a few years together. And that's when I started to really want to start coaching again. And once Brad left Menor, I decided to go back and coach with reserve with my dad and Audie. And that's when we went and won a Barron Cup. And so it's kind of been this long journey of growing up with it to being a big part of my life and a part of, you know, my coaching career. And I was able to have my son go out there for a couple of practices and come out for a couple of alumni games. And he was in the stands for our very last Barron Cup game. So, you know, it's kind of that whole piece of my life. You know, it's been a long journey, and I've loved every moment of it, from kid to player to coach. Someone in the stands who really enjoyed it. So, you know, obviously for me, you know, as my dad and being part of it, but being with Brad and Audie coaching has been really great too.
Yeah, I suppose I should have done some more research on my own. I'm not sure how many assistant coaches I've had over the 30 years. But it's a pretty long list. A few have gone on to coach other places, as Kyle said, at Menor, and Brad was at Menor, and now he's at Kent Roosevelt, and Audie went from reserve over to Gilmore and helped out in their program, their extensive program. So I've had a number that have gone on. Just like the students, they're expected to do sports. That's our gym class. The faculty is also expected to coach, whether you know the sport or not. So just this year, I had Jeff Warner with me as an assistant. He's been with me for 10 or 12 years. So he's gotten to know the game pretty well, but a guy that never played it before. And then my second assistant was a guy that had certainly seen hockey before, but never played it, never coached it, never did anything. And I think he had a good experience. He told me the other day at dinner I learned a lot. Because I had a long way. I didn't know anything. So I was going to learn a lot just by being around. But it's always been, whether it's the kids or the coaches, that try to make it a positive experience and one that they enjoy. And now I see the people I just mentioned pop on. What, how many people did you guys contact? Good Lord.
Well, we made it. This is your life kind of a moment here, Coach. So
This is my
lock in. It's gonna get real emotional, I think.
Kyle, why don't you bring in some of the other guys that have joined us here?
Sure. John Grinham, he played with me from 99 to 2003. So coming in from Boston. John, do you want to say anything?
Hi. I'm not sure what conversation I'm stepping into.
Yeah, sorry. There's a lot. We're talking about a lot of different things there.
Yeah. Hey, John, thanks for joining us. As part of the, from Boston, no less. And that kind of speaks to, I mean, you're in Boston now, but in looking at the roster from Western Reserve, you've had players from all over the place playing for that team, playing for the team there. Now talk about your experiences at Western Reserve back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And if I'm not mistaken, you were part of the Barron Cup championship while you were there. So talk about how that season was and how special that was for you.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the experience goes back deep for me. I mean, Kyle and I played hockey together since we were in like 5th grade or something of that nature. So, the experience started with Closen's all-star lacrosse camp, actually. So every summer I'd come to Reserve for 2 weeks and do the camp first, and then eventually started up as a student in 99. We had a good kind of start. We actually had a couple of players that we all played with in like middle school as freshmen that year, and it was pretty fun to kick off with some good wins and Columbus tournament. I think we beat Gilmore to save a 500 season that year. I don't talk about my sophomore year because I shot up 2 or 3 inches and forgot how to skate for a year. I had a big goose egg on the goals that year. The game just fell away from me. But then I was happy in coming back to junior year. We had a really strong team. I think when you think about the collective of who was there, we had, Andre from the Czech, we had Huth and Berman, just a lot of talent on that team that, Coach Closen was able to bring in and mentor and really kind of say what was so special about the team in Reserve. And so that year, we won the Barron Cup. It was fantastic win. I'm trying to think of all those games, but a really good season there. And then pretty exciting because that bumped us up to the Red Division for the senior year, and different experience. We lost to some of the talent, maybe lost a bit of the depth, but we still had some good memories in that final season as well.
And we're also joined by Coach Edwards from Kent Roosevelt right now, the Barron Cup 3 runners-up, a tremendous run through the playoffs they had there, who's also at Western Reserve, I believe, around this time frame, if my intel is right, Coach. So welcome to the show. Congratulations on a great Barron Cup 3 season. We can certainly get to that, but I'll talk about your experience with the Western Reserve as well. It seems to kind of tie in with John here.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a memento here that John and Kyle and those guys gave to me that stands in my bar. This is the Barron Cup championship. I don't know if you can think Grinham's right here. Isn't that you?
Yeah, a lot of lettuce.
Yeah, right in there. A lot of lettuce, man. That was, for me, it was, and congratulations, Brandon, on a wonderful career. And, I appreciate you guys having me on because, Brand he's a great friend, great mentor. I got to coach Kyle and John here. You were saying names in there. Kreitzer was on that team, and what was Googs? Googs was on that team. It was a great group. But I mean, for me, I was 24 years old, and I was just trying to cut my teeth. And Brand took a shot on a young guy, and boy, we had a really great season. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for the program and all the things that you've done throughout the years, Brand, to not only Western Reserve Academy, but Northeast Ohio hockey.
Thank you. Thanks. I've heard Brad tell that story now a couple of times, that I took a real chance on him. I knew him. I'd coached against him when he played at Roosevelt. Roosevelt just destroyed us. And I watched Brad on the ice, and I had been around him, and it wasn't a real risk when I said, sure, come on. He asked if because we don't really pay our assistant coaches because they're all faculty members. So when you go out and get an outside coach, sometimes you can get a little money, and most times you can't. So it was kind of a volunteer assistant, but he was there every game, every practice, all the time. And he was a huge help in moving that team forward. But I knew what I was getting, and I knew that this was a guy that cared about the game and cared about kids. And if you've got that, then you're 90% of the way home. So
I appreciate that, Brian.
All the things that he went on to do and is still doing. It was a nice run by Roosevelt. They had to do the play-in game just to even get in to the cup, and took it all the way to the finals, and then got to play CVCA for the.
That was round 6. That was round six. That was at the beginning of the season when I started scheduling, we had our own tournaments, and they were in both of our tournaments. And I'm like, we'll start a little rivalry here. Little did I know that we were going to be in the same division as well. And so it ended up being 6 games, and you want to play the best to be the best. So obviously the tables did not go our way, but it was great to see teams, and Brandon mentioned this earlier. I was watching online prior to coming in, and he mentioned how Stowe did take their barn, and Reserve was one of the teams that was knocked out of there, along with Walsh, and I think Walsh kind of left on the CVCA. I think Walsh and CVCA may have left on their own accord, but when time came back for the arena to open up, it was disheartening to me that the team that had been there the second longest was not given the opportunity to play there for a brand new program, and just basically kept it at public schools in there. But really missed having Brandon in the rink, and that was part of the reasons my coaching staff and I wanted to have him do a ceremonial puck drop late in the season, because I wanted him to be able to step foot on that ice one last time, where it all began. Yep,
and that was really special. Brad sent me a text message like Brad usually does. Hey, Coach, do you have? Are you available Thursday? So I'm assuming he means the team. Is the team available Thursday? Well, we played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that would give us 4 games in a row. And I wrote back, I'd love to do it, but I can't. We can't squeeze another game in. And this was at the end of the season. He writes back, he goes, no, not the team, you. I'm thinking, me? Well, yeah, I'm available. What do you need me for? And I kind of walked into that, and it was really special. It was really well done, and it was great. It was just a great event. So,
well, I didn't want to get. I already gave you your 300th win at the pond earlier in the season, so I wasn't putting you on the schedule to take another beating like we did.
Hey, Coach Edwards, thanks again for joining us. Again, a great season. We look forward to seeing what Kent can do next year. As you mentioned, you guys were, as we talked about, you guys were in the play-in game, and we threaded this throughout the course of the broadcast. Was CVCA had made a similar run the previous year as the 7th seed. They pulled some upsets off to get to the championship, and ultimately they ran into Normandy at the time, and you guys kind of did the same exact thing. So it certainly bodes well for if that trend continues. Next year's looking really good for you guys.
we hope so. You never know what you're gonna get. They are high school kids, and being a teacher and a coach, you just got to take what you get and keep being positive and get the kids to buy into the system. And when you can do the little things, and I think that was one of the things I learned from Bran was, doing the little things right are going to win you games. And our guys were able to do the little things. Unfortunately, we had to play 4 games in a week. And then we went to play our state playoff game the day after we lost the Barron Cup championship, which ended our season abruptly. So not good scheduling on the part of me there, but hopefully we've turned the corner and we'll see what happens next year. Just excited. I'm just glad I could be here, and I want it to be more about Brand, not Roosevelt, but I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. We're also joined by Otto Bohan as well, who played in the in about the early 2010s and mid 2010s. If I'm not mistaken, you played on at least one, maybe 2 Barron Cup championships. Is that accurate, Otto?
That's right. Yep. I think it was back-to-back Barron Cups, sophomore and junior year.
Yep.
Well, congratulations. Welcome to the show. And, we have a bunch of reserve folks here, assistant coaches and players past and present. So talk about your time at Western Reserve and your time with Coach Closen, and and maybe some of your favorite memories that you had while you were there.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Thank you for having me on. It's great to see some familiar faces on here. Yeah, I mean, Coach Closen was certainly one of the highlights of my time at WRA. Not only was he a hockey coach for me, but also a golf coach. And I'll bet that he's probably one of the most unique golf coaches that is around. Yeah, and on top of that, he was a teacher and a dorm master. So I lived with him for a year, and on all the hockey trips. And yeah, so I mean, I definitely owe a ton of the time I spent at WRA growing up and learning about myself and meeting new people to Coach Closen and Kyle too, and Audie, Coach Warner. So good to see you. Yeah, I mean, and on top of that, couldn't be more of a family man and just a welcoming person. And that's obviously super important at a school like WRA. So yeah, I mean, I was thrilled to get this email from Kyle, and it's when I think about good memories or like the best memories I have at WRA, it's definitely time spent with the hockey team or with Klaus in the dorm and stuff. So yeah, it's great to be here.
And Otto's a perfect example of the type of kids that I get in the program. Otto had played hockey, youth hockey, for quite a while, but his real forte is a lacrosse goalie. Won a national championship in goal for Wesleyan. I don't know what year. You'll have to help me, Otto. 19?
18, yeah, close enough.
18. Right? I stand corrected. And that's, I think, part of the reason that the program has had success is because we get kids like Otto who excel in another sport, but they love hockey. And, we've always tried, Jeff and I, Brad and I, Audie and I, when, we try to build a culture of kids to have a chance to enjoy the game. And even if it's not their sport. And Otto was an excellent hockey player. In fact, I think aren't you a gold medal winner in hockey?
Yeah.
Which is the highest award that we give at school. It's the highest athletic award that we give at Western Reserve Academy, given in a sport for a student who excels. But it's the kids that they just love the game. And I was blessed this year with having some kids who are excellent lacrosse players who are going and playing Division I or Division III lacrosse that just happen to love hockey. And so we reap the benefit of that. And so it's fun. And it's a crazy mix. I mean, for John and Kyle back in 2002, Brad mentioned some of the names, but you had David Huth and Berman, who was from way out of the Elyria area. But we also had Kyle Anderson from Vermont, and we had was Talanda play? Yeah, Talanda played
Andre.
Right? From the Czech Republic. So you get all these kids, and very few of them have played together in the same program. Kyle, John, Pat Taylor, all played together at Tri-County. And that would be one of the few groups of players that I've had that actually had played together. And so it does make it difficult that you don't have kids that have real chemistry. You can't throw a line out there that's been playing together for the last 8 years in some youth program. Every kid's got to kind of learn the other kids' patterns and what they're doing and how they're thinking. But if you take really good athletes and put them out there and give them the right direction, good things can happen. So.
I think we're also Kyle. I think we have another teammate that came on. Looks like we have Pat Donahue on as well. How you doing today, Pat?
Hey, good. How are you guys?
Good.
This is your life. Good God. Going back to the 1900s to dig these guys up.
Right. Yeah. All the way back to 97, starting off.
Yeah.
So,
Pat, please talk about your experiences at Western Reserve as well. As with the program ending, but we're talking.
Sure.
We want to talk about Western Reserve coming off a 2-time Barron Cup 2 championship and 5 Barron Cup championships all around. But I mean, you're part of many of coaches' 300 wins as a player back in the late 90s. Talk about your experiences there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think. Early on, I think that first year there weren't many wins. As I recall, about 4 of them. Kyle, you probably saw it from the stands as well. So that was a learning experience. But I think just for myself coming into, I grew up playing pretty competitive hockey and really came to Reserve trying to just enjoy the game. And that was one thing that Coach Closen preached was really the enjoyment for the program. And playing with your heart, but also the teamwork aspect, I think, too. So we really did start to gel, though, as a team. I know the sophomore year, a few more wins. And then my junior year, we won the Centerville tournament. So I think that kind of really catapulted the team forward and won the Blue Central my senior year. So, it was a great experience. A lot of great friends and memories as part of the program.
And that the theme of not having a tender, you can teach kids to play together on a line, but it's hard to teach a kid to play goal. I think Pat's freshman year, we had a relatively new goalie, if I'm not mistaken. Was that Carlos's year?
Carlos, yeah, I remember.
Carlos Duque. Never played before, I'll take that back. He said he'd played before, but he played like he'd never played before. And we ended up, one of the other kids who was on the team said, I've got a buddy back home who is a goalie for Talawanda, and I think I can convince him to come up. And that's when we got, for 2 of your years, you had Allegory, Patrick?
Yep. Yeah, 2 years.
So now all of a sudden you get an experienced goalie,
right?
And it does make a world of difference for the team. I mean, they play different, and you can play different, both offensively and defensively, with a tender in net that has done it before. I mean, just simple things like rebounds. Poor Carlos would make a save and the puck would be there and he would have no idea where it was. So now the defensemen are scrambling, trying to lock up everyone who's in front of the net, and it's an impossible task. So it does make a difference. But we had Patrick, what year did you graduate? 2001?
2001, right. So
you just missed the Barron Cup win.
Yeah, I know. I was jealous the year after that you guys started having the playoffs, so missed out on that. We got a plaque though, so that was.
Oh, that's right. So 2001 was the year that for some reason, Ryan wouldn't know. He's not on the call anymore, but he wouldn't know because it was before him. They had the Barron Cup 1 for the red, and they'd started the new division and had the white division. And for that 1 year, if you look at the cup, I can grab it and show it to you. There's a gap. There was no tournament that year. No one really knows why. Talked to people about it. He couldn't figure it out either, but they didn't do it. I don't know if it was ice time at Brooklyn, but Kyle always tells me, well, we really won the Barron Cup that year. If we'd had it, if we'd run it, we would have won it. So
that was, that's
the asterisk year, as you said earlier.
Yep.
Right.
No, I count that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that year and then the year before when we won that tournament in Centerville, I mean, that was a big win for the program, I think. Just recognition within Northeast Ohio too, probably all of Ohio really, with all the teams we played. And I know we had a few guys on the team from Oxford, Ohio, that had previously gone to Talawanda or had friends there, and we played them in the game before the championship game, so we had to beat them. And some of those guys just played like their head was on fire. Like it was amazing to watch. That was probably the most fun game I ever played in.
Right. I think we played didn't we play Arlington in the tournament?
Yeah. Arlington.
We played Arlington, Talawanda, and Centerville, who not that many years before that had been the state champs. They were state champs back in the 70s, but I think Centerville might have had the state championship in the 80s. Roosevelt's was, I think, in 84.
No, 1982.
82.
Yeah, 81 runner-up, 82 state champs.
Be a steel trap. It's not anymore. Yeah, but that Patrick's right. Those wins, when you start, hanging and beating Upper Arlington and Centerville and Talawanda, and back then, I'm not sure that St. X and those guys, the Cincinnati teams, if they had teams, they weren't a big name. And Liberty just won it, this year. Liberty was that school didn't even exist back in 99, in 2001. So, yeah.
I think Moeller. I was just going to say, I think Moeller would have been the only really big Cincinnati team down there at that time, besides Talawanda.
Yeah. Yeah, and Centerville's like halfway in between. And my very first coaching job was like Brad's, unpaid, volunteer, but I'd done my student teaching at Findlay, and so I was there, and I was there for the fall quarter at Bowling Green. We did quarters, and so I was at Findlay, and I started talking to the guy who coached the hockey team, Keith Harrington, and he did it all by himself. And so I said, well, would you like some help? And he said, sure. And so I that was my first year of coaching hockey at the high school level. And he stayed maybe 2 more years at Findlay. They'd won the state championship. The year I was with them, we went to the state finals, but lost to Cleveland Heights. But I wasn't at the state final because lacrosse had their spring trip, and I was in Baltimore on the spring trip. But he went from Findlay to Centerville and turned them into a powerhouse, and he won a state championship down there. So it was a great program. I haven't heard as much about them lately. Arlington and Liberty and those guys get all the headlines, but
Hey, Kyle, a couple other folks joined on. Why don't you help bring them in as well?
Sure. Well, Coach Warner, he hasn't said anything over there, but he's the assistant coach for the past, a little more than a dozen years or so.
He's the silent type.
Yeah, he's a silent type. Yeah, he's the silent motivator. But I think just even talking about coach, like the jump from, basically being a wrestling coach to hockey, that's kind of a weird jump. But what that's like.
It's first of all, thanks for having me on, guys, and I see enough of Brand as it is, so I'll try to be quick. It was interesting. I've never picked up a sport. It's been ages since I started a sport, and I got into it because Brand needed somebody to drive the van, and I was hanging out with the guys, just taking pictures. I stopped coaching wrestling because of old age and bad knees, so just helping them out and enjoyed the sport, and I liked the guys. And I don't know, the one year I was out there watching Brandon, and Kyle wasn't out there yet, and he had all these kids who could skate, and he had a handful of kids who couldn't skate. And I thought, well, Jesus, if these guys can figure it out, I can figure it out, right? So I went out there and started skating with the kids who couldn't skate. And I probably don't skate any better now than I did then, but at least I didn't fall, which was one of Brand's great fears. But I was thinking as everybody's talking, there's some really good coaches in here, and I've had a chance over the years to watch Brad and Brent work with the Kent kids, and Audie work with us, and Kyle work with us and their programs, and I've coached. Gosh, I'm the girls cross country coach, and I've did some lacrosse, and I think there's something that all really good coaches have in common is that they put the kids in the program before themselves. And I would say that Brand does that without fail. I mean, in all the times that I've spent with him, either coaching lacrosse when we first both came 30 plus years ago to just this last couple weeks ago, right? I mean, I don't know how many of Kyle's games or Kelsey's games or things that he missed. Barb's, I don't know, missed events with Barb, probably for better or worse, his wife, but he was always looking after the kids, and they're, the fact that he wanted them to have fun, and he knew that they enjoyed the sport, and it didn't matter whether they were a great player like Pat and Otto, or coming in and didn't really know the game much. He tried to make the best experience he could for those guys. So I know that he was passionate about the sport up here. He made great friends, and there are a couple of guys here that were able to. It was very nice of Kent Roosevelt to honor him on their ice before their game. I'll miss him when he goes. I'll miss hockey, I think, actually a lot, because I really come to enjoy the sport and the guys who play it.
Jeff, we're always looking for assistant coaches at Kent Roosevelt. If you get the itch, I mean.
Is that because I have 3 juniors who are looking for a home?
Oh, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Nope.
Jeff and I, when I started in school, Jeff had been here for 2 years, and we were the JV lacrosse coaches together for a couple of years. We would travel with the varsity because we had to help drive the vans and such. But we had a good time with those guys. We played St. Ignatius was just starting their high school lacrosse program. It was their varsity against our JV, and we played them. What did we play them, Jeff? 5 times in 1 year, because they couldn't get anyone else to play because the sport really just hadn't grown enough up in Northeast Ohio. So I like to tell Ed Agajanian and the St. Ignatius kids that Jeff and I are really responsible for them starting the St. Ignatius lacrosse team, because the last game, I'm not sure they had beaten us yet. The brother who runs St. Ignatius at the time came to the game and watched the game, and Ignatius beat us like 7-6. This is reserves JV. Beat us 7-6. The kids all went crazy. the father went back to, her brother went back to St. Ignatius and said, this is a varsity team. We got to make this a varsity team. And they made a varsity team, all because of us, because we knew how to lose.
That's one way to put it. Hey,
lacrosse
Kyle,
has come up. Oh, sorry, real quick. Lacrosse has come up a few times, and obviously, coach has done a hell of a job, recruiting guys to coach in the hockey program with him at reserve. Whether it's Brad, who's obviously gone on and done a hell of a job with Kent. Kyle was inevitably going to be back there on the bench at some point. Coach Warner turning him into a hockey guy. Having Berman come out, myself, that was my start to actually coaching hockey. But another big one, and Grinna mentioned it when he came on, was the All-Star Lacrosse Camp, and just the amount that did for not just lacrosse players in the area, but even just the amount of coaches that have come through that. So, again, we've talked a bunch about how Coach does an amazing job of thinking about the kids and creating a culture that the kids, and players want to strive towards a common goal. And again, you're learning life lessons all throughout it. But if you saw the coaching tree that's under Closen, just getting their start in All-Star Lacrosse Camp or things like that, the opportunity that he provided for guys like myself, that's when I really got my start into coaching and inevitably, like, in the end, ended up coaching college and high school, stepped away from it for the first spring in 23 years this year because I had a second kid. But my wife got her coaching start there. She's coaching Division I lacrosse at Kent State. There's literally dozens of high school coaches throughout Ohio and in, Michigan, Oregon, all over the place that they got their coaching start at All-Star Lacrosse. In retrospect, it was probably just hiring us somewhat as babysitters because there was 150 plus, Hudson parents that are dropping their kids off there to occupy them for the day. But really, giving us the opportunity and the autonomy to take the kids and go and just, find ourselves as coaches and really, really develop a passion for teaching kids and developing them into lacrosse players and teaching the life lessons that you get out of it. So I certainly wouldn't be where I am. Left education, but got into a company through my lacrosse connections as well. So I wouldn't be where I am, as a coach or a person or professionally without Coach Closen taking a chance on giving me a group of kids and an envelope filled with cash at the end of it. And, letting us just kind of have a run and sorry, it was less than, it was less than $600. So it didn't need to be,
okay.
All right. Didn't need to be written off.
Tax purposes, we're okay. All right.
But no, yeah, again, I know it's more of a hockey focus here and there's been a lot through that, but there's dozens and dozens of guys and gals that I know that have gotten into coaching and have a true passion for it. And it's really been as a result of, your mentorship and you taking the opportunity to run a camp and employ a bunch of knuckleheads in their college years and let them find out that, it's really rewarding to be able to work with kids and get them to where they can be and watch them develop and take ownership of it. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's I ref lacrosse now, and just this weekend I was doing a game, Hudson and a scrimmage, Hudson and Hilliard Davidson, and a kid came up to me from the coaching staff and said, "Coach, I don't know if you remember me, but I was at your All-Star Lacrosse camp in 2008." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't remember you, but yeah, sure enough, it is funny how many kids you run into that I see that we had it at that lacrosse camp, and yeah, that's a whole nother story. But that was a fun run. Did that probably for 25 years of every year, just a 1 week camp. But boy, a ton of kids came through that. And a lot of those kids went on to play college ball and have gone on to coach. And a lot of the kids that had a great experience would come back and say, "Hey, can I coach?" And we usually took a chance on them, and it was fun. That was a fun thing. And it was boys and girls. We had a lot of girls there. Audie's wife was one of a number of coaches that we had that have gone on to coach either high school or college. So yeah,
it's a great segue. As you mentioned, both boys and girls. We do have Kelsey Closen also has joined us here, who I understand also played for you. And so Kelsey, thank you for joining us. I don't think I asked Kyle this directly, but I'll ask you this directly. How was it playing for your dad?
It was good.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
I actually only played, I would say maybe 2 years. I would say a year under him, and then I managed the team. So Kyle might have, more to say about that, but he actually also coached me my senior year in lacrosse. So I got some experience there, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I was kind of used to seeing his face being at the school. It's kind of a unique experience. You're with your teachers 24/7. So I got to be around my dad pretty much all the time, which was good though. So he didn't, I don't know about Kyle, but he didn't treat me, any differently than anybody else, which was kind of nice. And I would say like my main takeaway from, being on one of his teams is just how he coached. I think it's kind of been said multiple times is his main focal point, I think, was the kids. And I personally felt that, it's always nice to win, but he didn't put the pressure that that was an expectation that every single game was going to be a win. So that's one thing that I've carried with me. I actually coached field hockey and lacrosse in high school for high schools. And that was one thing that I really wanted to make sure my players felt as well is, we're here for you. We're here for you guys to have fun. And hopefully we can have some wins along the way.
Yes. And I'll second that as well. I think getting the most out of the players. I think Brad and I talked about this when I was coaching mentor and we'd play reserve every once in a while. We were usually thin at reserve, but trying to really get the most out of the players. Like when Pat played, winning that Centerville tournament and having, 2 lines. When Audie and John and I played Hudson, my senior year, we only had 2 lines and beat them twice. I remember coaching, we beat Walsh, and it was a huge upset, and we had 8 kids on the bench. And then I remember with Otto, I think they changed the whole league, but Otto, his team had 4 players, and they won a game, with only 4 players. So they played shorthanded the entire game and won. And I think they changed the league because of that game. But really, I think that just speaks to getting the most out of the players, right? You're getting them to kind of, run through that brick wall or whatever, with that metaphor. But I think that's been a big piece of it, right? You're willing to kind of do whatever you can to get that win and do whatever coach says to motivate you. So
I don't think it mattered how many players you had on the bench. We knew that when we faced Western Reserve, his teams were going to be ready. It didn't matter how many kids were on the bench. And we knew that they were going to be ready for us, and he was going to have a plan and they were going to execute it. It was that simple. They never came in unprepared.
And Brent, thank you for joining us as well. So talk a little bit about your experiences here as well, with Coach Closen, and we're kind of thread yourself into this as well.
Well, this was my 15th season as an assistant at Roosevelt. I kind of took the Happy Gilmore approach. I was a golf coach and then came on as an assistant with Ben Barlow. I was a golf professional turned hockey coach. So, I went the alternate route. But, with Brand, I also played men's league hockey with him for a few years, and I played several years with Kyle. Being in the same conference with them for several years, we knew every time we faced them, it didn't matter what their record was. It was going to be a grind every time. And, they had amazing players on every team. And like I said, you just knew, you know. One of the things I think I respect the most about Brand, though, is that, you know, hockey is a tough sport, and you've got kids out there that are gunning for you, and it can be a tough, rough game. And the thing I really respect about Brand is that he would always hold his kids accountable. He didn't want his kids playing dirty. He didn't accept it. And you know, in a sport like this, that can be tough. You know, you've got parents who want to win at all costs. They don't care. And, you know, they're screaming and yelling in the stands. And Brand was a calming influence for that. And with his players, when they came to the bench, if they had crossed that line, they were going to hear about it. It didn't matter. You know, I think to Brand, yes, he wanted to win, but that was secondary. He was all about building men and women and, you know, honoring the traditions of the sport. You know, ice hockey has a code, and Brand was all about that. And that's one of the things that I've always respected about him.
Thank you. Thanks. That we did. It is a tough game. It's a physical game, and we always tried to play, be physical, but be clean.
Oh, you guys were physical.
And the other thing, I ran into it this year. Celebrate, but celebrate with your team. Don't celebrate in front of the other team. I had a little discussion with one of my players this year. After he scored the go-ahead goal against Hudson.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see anything in that game in our tournament.
But yeah, you know, getting the best out of people, and making sure that they're doing it the right way. But, you know, and Jeff can speak to. I mean, he was part of that too. You know, part of it is just holding kids accountable. I think kids today sometimes they're not used to having someone tell them that's not right. We're not going to do it that way. And so he and I and you know would try to do that. Would try to make sure that kids were on the same page as us, so that we're going to do this together. I don't know how many times I said we're going to win and lose as a class act. I don't care if we win every game or lose every game, but let's do it as a class act. And so we did try to live up to that. You're dealing with teenagers, so you always have an issue here or there, but we did try to, that was part of our mission, I think.
Well, let's be honest too. When you're in the barn and Western Reserve is playing, you can hear Brand. You can hear him across the room.
That is true. I think I got that part from Brand. I'm kind of a loud guy on the bench as well, but you know, I think also one of the things I got from Brand is exactly what you guys were just talking about, like putting the kids first and playing. You know, we're not always going to win games. You know, I think that's the most important thing that kids need to realize is like win, lose, or draw. Like, are you playing hard? Are you being physical, but are you being respectful? And, you know, you respect your teammates at the end of the day. That's why I think hockey is one of the greatest games. There's a handshake line after every game, and you get to look your opponents in the face. And whether you battled hard and you had some words with your opponents, I think respecting your opponents is really important. And at the end of the day, I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned from Brand was to always just make sure that the kids were first. And, you know, just make sure they're respectful and try to keep them accountable, because the accountability, kids want to be accountable as much as they don't think, you know, teaching and stuff, that they need that structure and accountability, and it just helps them grow as people.
Yeah. And I think it's just not the kids nowadays. I think pretty sure that message was when Pat, John, and Audie and I played when I think I broke a stick maybe against the boards a couple times. Otto, I'm pretty sure, got talking to a couple of times.
Yeah, I remember I got to talk to. I yelled at Senor after he gave me a little bit of feedback about giving away the puck. And yeah, I heard from Brand after that in the locker room.
Was he yelling ice the puck? Because he did like to do that.
Yeah.
I used to have to tell him, Jim, we've got the puck.
Forgot about it. Senor's right here, guys.
There he is.
There's Senor.
Yeah, Pat, should we talk about your injury?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I did think about that one before the meeting. Yeah, so as a boarding school, right? You don't have your parents always at the games, although my dad was pretty regularly at them. But I think whatever game this was, yeah, it was probably what he couldn't make. So I ended up going into the boards on a check, misjudged it a little bit, and slammed my shoulder into the boards and separated it. And Brand was able to get me over to the emergency room with my pads on and arm up in the air because it was a little bit of a strange dislocation. So I actually had to have my arm raised up so I could actually walk out of the ice rink and into the car. And then Brand was there when they took the bed sheets and ripped my arm out of the socket and put it back in. So that's only a coach would do.
Yeah, that's so you're the driver, you're the coach, but you're also the ambulance driver who we take kids to the hospital a number of times over the 30 years. But,
I think
at the Barron Cup, Jake Thompson, Barron Cup 2009, we ended up losing the game in overtime to Rocky River, but he and a Rocky River player went face to face, and both of them ended up getting cuts on their chin. And at that time, they had a doctor from the Cleveland Clinic was the on-site guy, and he said, "Well, I'll just stitch him up." So it was like a Blue Jackets game. He took both kids over to the thing and stitched them up, and out they went into the third period. Of course, we didn't have parental permission, but I said it was good. It was good. We'll just go ahead and do it. Just get them back on the ice, and we're good. So.
Is the scary room where you stored all the equipment? Is that room still alive and well at reserve?
No, thank God.
I think I went there one or two times, and I was like, man,
that was a boiler room under the old swimming pool. And that was the hockey locker room. So all of the smell and everything just kind of heated up. And when you went down there, that was a scary place. But the girls, I think, had painted some murals on this, so it was very festive. But boy, did it stink. Yeah, that's gone, thank God.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, there's a lot of statute of limitations on a lot of this conversation, so I think we're all good here.
That's true.
From potential tax evasion to potential poaching of players, we're covering the gamut here. It's all good. It's all good. We want to thank you. We want to thank everybody for joining us, taking some time out of your day, no matter where you're at throughout the country, to talk about Western Reserve. And Coach Closen and all you guys, being able to kind of reconnect a little bit here. As for Sports on Tap for us, we started doing hockey a little bit ago, and we're still trying to find a way through it a little bit. But being able to help share and help bring out some of the programs through our podcast and through our broadcasts and highlighting programs such as Western Reserve has been a real privilege for us. So we couldn't be happier that we were able to provide, that we were able to work with Kyle, to get everybody on from all walks of life and all walks of different eras of Western Reserve hockey. So thank you all for that and for joining and celebrating you guys. We want to celebrate your program. In any which way which you guys wanted to do so.
I would thank you to Sports on Tap for everything that you guys have done for the hockey programs here in Northeast Ohio. The we had a lot of parents who couldn't make that championship game, and they watched it on your program. We always do a live feed, a live stream, but it's just our managers that are doing it. No play-by-play, no commentary, although they forget that the live stream is on, so there actually is a lot of commentary, but it's just the girls talking to each other, so it's not. So for the parents, this was quite refreshing to have someone actually talk about the game and make some sense of things. So for our program, we're very appreciative, but I know that I speak for a lot of coaches in the area, what you guys do to help promote things, because it's all about the kids, and you guys are doing a great job. So thank you. And thank you to all you guys who came on to do this. I didn't know anything about this. Jeff was in my room today. I didn't really know. I just thought this was going to be like what we had done before the season. I didn't know this was This Is Your Life. So thank you very much. Jeff knows well, we're not getting rich doing this, but this is how we get repaid, and so this is great. I thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. That's for sure. And thanks, Kyle, for organizing and getting a lot of the guests too. We worked together on contacting everyone and trying to get everybody together, and it worked out great. I mean, this was a great show, a lot of fun, and it's always fun to hear all these stories from over the years, that's for sure. And I'm sure you can talk about it for days too, that's for sure. So we appreciate everyone taking time to come on.
Yeah, I tried to find my reserve jacket. I don't know where that's at. So. Not sure where that might, and it probably does not fit as well as it would have 20 years ago.
Now that photo came in pretty clutch, though. I got to say that.
Yeah.
That was well timed. The multiple times that you used that.
I get to look at it all the time downstairs here at the bar. So.
Very good. Well, we will again thank you everybody for joining us. Lots of people took some time out of their day to celebrate Western Reserve and celebrate Coach Closen. We couldn't be as sad as it is that the program's gone. It will never be gone. It'll certainly live on through everybody here, and then everybody who participated in the program through the lacrosse that Audie mentioned earlier, and the coaching tree and everything. Western Reserve has from in the little time that we've been introduced to the program, Western Reserve has quite a reach, and it's planted its roots everywhere. So we're happy to be able to tell a little bit of part of the story through our outlets, with all respect to Stowe, we will be certainly talking about them in the future.
Yes, you will.
Having Western Reserve winning the championship in the last year, it's a story that writes itself. It doesn't get much better than going out on top, and that's exactly what Western Reserve did. And everybody on this call had something to do with it. So. Without Brand, if you have any last parting remarks before we get going, then we can certainly do that.
I just want to say, obviously, thank you to the guys who are on the call. But 29 years, and I actually have a list, and I think it's 240 kids who played for me and with me, and just a thank you to everyone. And I hope that it was a positive experience for everyone. And I said this in my speech to the kids. Don't cry that it's over. Smile that it happened. And so I'm smiling. So thank you very much.
And there's nothing more needs to be said after that. So thank you very much, everybody. you catch a replay of this on our YouTube channel and also be on our website, sportsontap.podcast.com. Enough with the show. Thank you guys very much. We are Sports on Tap. For Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Sean Duffy, and Noah Jacobson, my name is Ed Dick. We'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, guys.